Welcome back to With Gray, and yes, we're in a different location. Welcome to Brit's tiny home, and if you'd like to see more, you can find her over here. The tiny house movement has really taken off in the past few years, and her place is exceptionally beautiful. I've cooked pork belly a few times in the past, and I've either somehow managed to absolutely nail it, or it just hasn't quite come out how I wanted. And with one of the best pork bellies I've ever eaten coming off of my friend's Weber over at Back Rack and Crackle, I knew I had my work cut out for me. So, with numerous pork bellies having been consumed during this lockdown, here are the findings, and we start the night before. I've got a pork belly here, which is weighing in at about 380 grams, and we're going to begin by making slices into the skin about 10 mils apart until you've gone across the whole belly. You also want to make sure you only go just through the skin and into the fat without going right down into the meat. So make sure you're using a sharp knife, take your time, and it'll be worth it. This isn't only going to help the fat render out of the skin, but it's also going to help with the presentation and portion control later on. Next, we're going to take some tinfoil, which is bigger than the pork belly by about 1.5 inches on each side. And we're going to fold this up so that each side is about 5 mils higher than the top of the pork belly. If you want more structural integrity in this, just fold your tinfoil over to make a double or triple layer so it's thicker. Continue working your way around, wrapping it up like a present until you've made a little boat for your porky friend. Next, we're going to fill the top of the pork boat with a large grain salt like this koshering salt from Spicecraft. You can use any salt here, but I find the larger stuff easier to brush off at the end. The only salt you definitely want to stay away from here is the regular table salt, as the grains are just too fine and you'll never be able to get rid of all of it at the end, and the result will be very, very salty, just like the haters. So, this goes into the fridge uncovered for about 24 hours, which will be enough time for the salt to dry out the moisture from the skin, which will result in a cracklier crackling. And look, time for us to go. See you tomorrow. Back to present day grey, and we can remove our porky friend from the chill box and brush off all the excess salt as it's done its job and is no longer needed. Make sure you get as much of the salt and moisture off as you can. It will not need any more seasoning before going into the oven unless you want to get creative with it and add your favourite barbecue rub or even some Chinese 5-spice. Just make sure that if you are going to add any other seasoning, that you only get it on the flesh. Keep any additional seasoning away from the skin. The pork will now head into a preheated 250 Fahrenheit or 120 Celsius oven. And yes, that's super low, but it's going to allow for the fatty layers in between the meat to render down, which will give us nice tender meat and fat, which won't feel like chewing on gristle. It'll take around 1 to 2 hours to get up to an internal temperature of 200 Fahrenheit or 95 Celsius, depending on the size of your pork belly. So keep an eye on not only the temp of your oven, but also the internal temp of the meat. Whoa! And where's all this veg come from? Ah well, looks like we're making a couple of salads. I like something fresh with a little bit of a sharp bite to it that can cut through the fattiness of the pork belly, so here are my 2 favourite Asian inspired side dishes. First, start by thinly slicing 1/4 of a small purple and green cabbage, just like you'd see in coleslaw. You can remove the core if you don't want the big chunky bits in there. Then we'll have 2 carrots and either run them through the julienne attachment of your mandolin, or if you don't have one of those, just flatten off the carrot on each side, which will not only steady it for cutting, but also give a nice uniform shape. Cut into strips, and then cut those strips into long, thin matchsticks. Repeat with the remaining carrot, and give a quick mix before moving on to the dressing, which consists of 1 tablespoon of minced ginger, 1 finely minced garlic clove, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, 1/4 cup of rice wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons of honey, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of chili flakes. Mix and give the dressing a taste. If it's too sharp, try adding in more honey. If you like it sharper, just add more rice wine vinegar. Just make sure you taste it and adjust it to your own liking. Add the dressing to the veg, and the first salad is done. Before completely dividing the audience and adding some coriander. Look, I know some people think it tastes like soap, but personally, I love it, so it's going in there. For the next salad, we're going to slice a cucumber lengthways and de-seed by taking a teaspoon and running it down the centre. Slice on a slight angle for presentation, and transfer to a bowl. Same treatment with the red chilli. cut on an angle to be left with nice ovals. If you don't like the heat, either leave out completely or halve lengthways and remove the seeds and the white membrane with a spoon before chopping. Next, thinly slice a half a red onion and let it soak in water to remove some of its harshness while we work on the dressing, which consists of 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, 2 teaspoons of honey, and salt and pepper to taste. Drain the onions and add all the ingredients to a bowl. Optionally, also top that with some chopped coriander and sesame seeds and your salad is done. So, with 2 side dishes done and an empty glass of wine, we can now check on our pork. It's not too much to look at the moment, but it's at the perfect temperature, 203 degrees Fahrenheit, which will give us nice, juicy, tender meat. Time to get the crackling done now. Then we'll transfer it to a cold pan skin side down and add just enough oil to come up and over the skin. Place this over medium. Why are these things designed so you always light the wrong one first? Place this over medium-high heat and let it go for about 10 minutes. If you want to keep an eye on the temperature of the oil, it should be about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. The underside should have beautifully crispy, even crackling, and I like to spin over some of the hot oil while it's cooking so that the bottom gets a little texture too. Remove from the heat and drain on paper towels. And there we go, just listen to that crackle. The meat is tender and juicy, and it would be very easy to sit here and devour the whole lot, but let's plate up. To plate, slice your pork belly down through each cut we made in the skin at the start and lay on a plate. Place a couple of piles of your salads on and you're ready to eat. Again, thanks for tuning in for another episode of With Gray, and hope you'll have a crack at making this for yourself and your family. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll catch you on the next one.